Welcome one and all to another episode of Murphy's Front Bar. I'm your host tonight, Bluey McGrath. Now we have one apology straight off the top. Benny Cass, who's hosted this show for a few times, his day release was rejected again, so he can't be here tonight. He has day release, from Barwon. So he can't be here again tonight, so apologies for him. Now, there are two special guests tonight. One to my immediate left, the rose between two thorns, two old boys tonight, is Marty Dangerfield. Welcome, Marty.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
And at the other end, we had his son on a few weeks ago, young Jed Buse. The father of Jed, Andrew Buse, welcome.
Well, thank you, Tim. Wonderful to be here, Marty. Absolutely delighted to be here working with you. But so he's locked up again, or he's not on day release, or the bracelet went off. Which one is it?
I think the bracelet might have gone off. So unfortunately, he couldn't be tonight. No, he's a bit unwell, Benny. So hopefully he gets well soon, and he's back next week. But until then, you're stuck with me.
No, that's a good thing, and we're really looking forward to you hosting and
so we've got two A graders and probably a B plus.
Take us down the rabbit burrow, mate. Away you go.
Now look, as we sit here now, Andrew, or Rat, whatever we want to call you, had a tremendous AFL career, VFL/AFL. You played 282 games, 207 with the Cats, 75 with the Brisbane Bears.
Slash Lions.
Kicked 134 goals.
Fine goals.
One of them was goal of the year. We'll get to that in a minute. You ran past 8 blokes in Burnham and you still kicked it. You were captain of Geelong. You're All-Australian representative. You're a State of Origin for Victoria representative.
You've been Googling.
Quite a number of times. You won the Simpson Medal in 1987.
Most people won't know what that is.
It's the best on ground in the State of Origin series.
Right on.
That's what that is.
What is it now?
Think about that.
What is it now?
It'll be the E.J. Whitten Medal now.
Yeah, but what does the Simpson Medal do now?
Gather dust on your shelf, probably.
No, it's best on ground in the Waffle Grand Final.
Right.
Yep.
So it's been downgraded to the Waffle.
I don't know whether it's been upgraded or downgraded. It depends on which way you look at it.
And most importantly, you're an AFL Life member, which is an extraordinary effort. Talk us through that.
Well, you play a certain amount of games, you hang around long enough, or you no, I was lucky. I played, I think you got it right, 282 games. But what they did was they decided in their wisdom, I reckon it was probably 1998, they decided the AFL to include fixtured games, any fixtured game. So whether it be fixtured pre-season game or whether it was representing a state or even the country. So they included all those games. So I think it rounds out about 320, something like that.
Jeez.
So I get in under that radar.
Well, it's a fantastic effort. There's been plenty of blokes that have played. Billy Brown's played 199, Steve Hocking 198. Yep. Brian Royal might have played 199, so they're all 200 club members.
They're 200 club members, absolutely. Yep.
So tremendous effort, though.
Yep. Craig Lambert, a mate of mine at Brisbane, was beside himself the minute he clicked over and got in the 200 club. He was absolutely rapt. And the most disappointed that he was ever. Like, I never saw Lammy smile very often. He was so disappointed with being named. They used to, in the Herald Sun, used to name a pretty boy side and an ugly man side. And Lammy was always captain and coach on a half-forward flank, changing with himself. No, we love Lammy.
I went to school with the great Craig Lambert.
Yeah, I knew you did. You're a dandy boy, aren't you?
Yeah, dandy boy.
People here don't know that. But
don't hold that against us. Now, Marty, we'll get to you. Geelong Ammo's netball.
All my accolades. Lay them out.
You've played in the premiership at Geelong Ammoners in the netball, correct? You were AFL Barwon Team of the Year this year in women's football.
Yeah.
You're a member of the Wamos footy team.
Correct. It's a little bit shorter than yours, Busey.
No.
Your list of
but that's okay.
football achievements. So far. I'm working on it.
Your journey. You left Geelong at a younger age and moved to Adelaide, obviously with your partner Paddy.
Yeah, I was 18 when I moved out of home interstate
that's a
for a
huge
boy.
thing.
Yeah, it's crazy in hindsight. I wouldn't be letting my child do it, so.
But you wouldn't change that for the world, though, would you?
No, it worked out. In the end, it worked out.
When you say it worked out, were there, being so young, were there ever points in time where you thought, what have I done?
Yeah, Yeah, pretty much the week that I went, I sort of thought, I made the move thinking, you know, we'd done distance for 2 years as I finished school in Geelong, and it was kind of like, well, I'm going to have to go and figure out if I like this kid or not. Boy, he was a kid, I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was my sort of thought process, I guess. Go and see how it works, and if it doesn't work, I'll move home, so be it. And it worked.
But you forged your own path over there. You went to uni and studied and got a degree.
Yep. Yeah. So I wasn't there just to follow Pat. My life goes on. And it was a great uni. It was a great course, and I worked for about 18 months after that before we came home.
Yep. And what's your degree?
Occupational therapy.
Okay.
OT.
Now you obviously enjoyed that.
Yeah, loved Adelaide.
Yeah.
It was a great place to live. Very much like Geelong. In terms of sort of that big town, little town feel. Everyone knows everyone. It's very interconnected. But our time was up after a few years. So
well, the
home.
decision to come back, obviously, big decision for both you and Pat. His footy, he probably done as much as he could in Adelaide. You wanted to maybe get back to your family. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was definitely a mutual decision.
Yeah.
I think Pat's probably thrown me under the bus a few times. He does have a lot more opportunity to tell the media his side of the story.
Yeah. That's what I always was reading or seeing or hearing.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, it was me. You know, I thought, I was so glad that you actually impacted so heavily.
Yeah, you're welcome, Geelong.
Yeah, I think it was fantastic.
Well, now that you can say your side of the story, there's a fair chance that the Murphys Facebook page will go into meltdown when you actually tell it how it is.
No. It was true. It was a mutual decision. We both wanted to come back. So I think equally Pat as much as me. And he'd been there sort of 7-8 years. So that was long enough.
Yeah, and obviously you're close with your family. You've got a beautiful family.
Yep. They're all down at Ammo's every weekend. So we spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Much to, I think, the Dangerfields dislikes. They're Anglesea through and through, Busey. You know them well.
Yes, we're feeling that,
So coming back now that I have just recently changed my name to Dangerfield, I think having a Dangerfield registered at Ammo's doesn't go down too well.
Now, down the track when young George, your beautiful young boy George, when he's old enough to, if he wants to play footy or whatever he wants to do, now the decision to go to Ammo's or Anglesea, there'll be a few fights at Christmas lunch, no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's ongoing. It's genuinely a weekly discussion of where George will be playing. And at this stage, I'm the only one playing in the BFL, so I feel like I have the power over that decision, but George is away
I can
off.
assure you, the uncles and many others at Anglesea will be forging hard for it.
It's a battle.
I could imagine that.
It'll be ongoing for the next however many years. When do they start Auskick?
Doesn't matter.
7. He can start whenever he likes. Yeah. We'll sign him up as much as we can.
When he was born, actually, Adelaide sent us a certificate of they'd applied for the father-son rule when George was born. I thought it was pretty cheeky of him.
Did that go in the shredder?
No. It's framed, hung up in his room.
Oh, very nice.
Well,
Typical Adelaide.
Yeah.
Now,
got in quick.
Now, Rat,
Yes,
you're
Tim.
obviously, we had Jed on a few weeks ago, spoke very well. The feeling for a father who's obviously had a great career himself in the AFL, to see his son come through the Falcons, and to be probably fair on him, he wasn't touted as going maybe high in the draft or getting drafted at all, but Geelong saw something.
Yeah, look, you make a good point. He's probably his journey, you know, and Aaron Greaves was his first coach Hoodie was his first coach, and he really enjoyed the experience under Hoodie. It gave him an opportunity to play in defence, where he not really played a great deal, and probably the only time he played defence at Leopold was a couple of times in under 14s when I got angry with him and decided it was time to get back and earn your stripes a little bit, young fella.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see the transition of how he coped with going from the midfield forward to playing a defensive role, you know, as a first year Falcons player, and seeing the other thing was there was no spot in the midfield. There was a heap of good players, like Devon Smith that was in the first group, who ran the midfield pretty much, and I think you'll also find that plays for Collingwood, just haven't quite got his name, but Grovey boy, can't think of his name. It'll come out shortly. But there was quite a few, a number of them who were playing midfield, and there was no way known he was going to get a run in there.
Yeah.
They were bigger-bodied boys and able to hold down those spots. So the next year when the Carnival you know, he was sort of picked in one of the trial groups, but didn't make the cut there, even for Vic Country. So he went back and just played at Falcons. But that was an opportunity for him to shine a little bit, and have a bit of a key focus on him, and he played quite well under Greavesy, and then got the opportunity to be drafted. He actually played 3 seconds games in his final year of Falcons, which was great grounding because he was doing a little bit of he was doing CETA program at the time and needed to do some hours at a sporting club, and the Cats took him on. So he got to know their game plan, got to know their strategy, structures, and he was a real student of that sort of thing. So he'd come home and tell me all about how they were doing their setups, and I thought, wow, he's really into his footy more than I thought he was. And because he was quite a good athlete at the same time.
Yeah, he had an athletics background. He was a pole vaulter.
Yeah. So he did his little A's, and then he came through into the seniors. And Jackson, the older boy, had already progressed into seniors and was doing pole vault. And Jed was still had 2 more years of junior aths to go. And he said, "Oh, can I come and chop out with you guys, Dad?" And I said, "No, yeah, I'm wrapped. I don't have to go in the morning to aths anymore. It's all this afternoon, and we're all doing the same event."
So it became all about you.
No, not necessarily. Mother
comes out now.
Mother Dearest was very excited about getting away from the morning aths. So it was, it worked out really well. But as an athlete, he was very, very good. And the coaches that were doing all the state coaching and the national level pole vault coaches were really excited because they'd had a guy go through who won a gold medal, mind you, in the Olympics as a pole vaulter, and Steve Hooker was, long-limbed, skinny kid, Jed's shape and size exactly. And they thought, wow, there's a new kid coming through, he's going to be all right, which he was. He was an excellent vaulter. Like, he was almost 5 metre vaulter at under 16 level. So, that's really good. I mean, really good. Jackson was vaulting 5 metres at 20 years of age, and so, it was it's a tough sport.
Yeah,
to succeed in.
Looks daunting. In the end, you say that Steve Hooker, who was Olympic champion, world champion.
Yeah.
In the end, in that sport, for whatever reason, he got the yips. He couldn't jump over the gutter in the end.
Well, just think of this. Like 6
Well, he
metres.
couldn't.
6 metres up is a long way, and I saw a few of those A graders.
It's a long way to come down.
There was another guy
the
called
other
Paul
side.
Burgess, had exactly the same issue. And I was at an event in Melbourne where he had a meltdown, and they totally just lost it. And he was a 6 metre vaulter, Paul Burgess. He was before Hooker, and we had all the pole vault kids sitting down the front, Marty, and they're all eyeballing all these champions. And here's one of them having a meltdown behind us with the head coach in the Australian team, and I felt like saying, "Hey mate, settle down, will you? Because these kids, you're impacting them." But it's amazing in sport how it goes sometimes.
I suppose elite sport now, it's actually quite prevalent. You look at the AFL, where it's local sport, they have psychologists. The elite can actually have a meltdown. You look at Ian Baker Finch in golf.
Absolutely.
Follow golf.
Yep.
He was a British Open champion, and in the end he couldn't putt 2 feet away, he couldn't get in.
No.
He actually was scared to pick up his putter.
Sometimes it's over. It's totally over. Your last game, can you remember that? You would have been terrified, but you've blocked it out of your mind.
Last game. My last game was against Adelaide.
Yeah.
At the
Why'd you quit?
No, I got pushed out the door.
He
Tapped on the
won't
shoulder.
admit it. He won't admit it. He was cooked. He was frightened.
I was cooked.
He was
but
done.
I thought I might have had a couple more games left, but no, I was cooked. But it's a big thing in sport now. I don't know whether Pat talks to you about what happens at the club, but psychologists and things like that, even for the elite players, I dare say they have to deal with that as well.
They certainly, at an elite level, they probably have better access,
Yeah.
I guess, to mental health support and sports psychologists, that people are actually really specifically trained to work with elite athletes. So they have better access to it. But I think it's, that even at that level, they're only human, and the pressure and all of that, just because you're at a certain level and you've trained as your job to do that role, it's
Mental health is that you hit it on the head, Marty.
It's fickle, and they're just people at the end of the day, yeah.
And it's support. And so much better these days, Bluey, at supporting players, even at local level. We've got the Read the Play programs, we've got all those great things that football, Victoria football, Geelong particularly, are really good at, AFL Bowen.
Do you think there'll be time and place for psychologists to be employed, say, by AFL Bowen for local, whether it's men's footy, women's footy, netball. So they've got access to someone or some sort of service.
Well, that's where Read to Play was really good. Each club had a delegate that was a go-to, where people could go and get a little bit of assistance, not help, but they were trained up enough to give assistance, and then put them into whether it be Headspace or whatever the program that was more suited to that
Just to flag
particular issue. It was a flagging mechanism, yeah. So, and there just needs to be a bit more resource pumped back in that way, I reckon.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
but they're
There's
onto
a
it.
market
They're totally
for
onto it.
Yeah.
I think if the AFL tipping money into local sport, then I think a fair chunk of that needs to go towards that down the track.
Yeah, it can't be missed. It's a blight on society, and I think clubs are wonderful support networks within their regions, but just that little bit more, that little bit of help and that assistance, and the flagging, Marty, as you say, is totally where it should be heading. Get them help early.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Marty, obviously you're a busy life. You're working full time in occupational therapy. Part time. Got a young family. Juggling all that, your family, work, your own sport. George, how do you go doing all that?
It's actually worked out really well that Pat plays sport for a living and works on the weekends, because he has a Tuesday or a Wednesday off, or a really random couple of midweek days off, so we can actually spend some time together. Because by the time I do a couple of trainings, 2 days a week of work, and football, netball on Saturday, Sunday, if Pat plays Friday football, well then there's your traditional weekend gone. So we do spend a bit of time together midweek, but it's I don't know, it's all I've ever known.
Yep. So you've got used to all that?
I'm used to it, yeah, yep.
Obviously he's got his fishing, and
Yeah.
do you get involved in that? Or
Not a lot.
No?
No. I'll generally, if we're going fishing, I'll take a book. So it's not really my passion.
So you're a bit Harvey Norman, no interest in that?
Yeah, no. He's sort of, it's taken off quite a bit, the fishing, his radio show, and then he and a couple of other business partners are starting a fishing clothing brand as well. So I'm helping on that side of things, because I can shop, wear clothes. So
A-grade shopper?
That's as close as I get to the fishing world.
Yeah, okay.
It's not for me.
Do you talk? You've obviously played footy this year, your first year. Paddy's a Brownlow medalist. Do you talk much footy at home, or is that?
We talk more footy this year, than more my footy. We're going to talk a lot about his football.
Yep.
When I didn't go to many this year, but I used to go to pretty much every game, and we'd have a bit of a recap on the way home, because I like football. I watch it. I feel like I know a bit about it, so I have opinions.
Yep. Strong ones.
Yeah, you would know. Sorry.
You picked up a bit, do you, mate?
Oh no, just every now and again I'll have put a couple of the girls in position. Marty said, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, I just moved the magnets on the board, and I somehow get away with it. So.
He doesn't like the magnets being touched.
I don't think any coach does. But he's happy to have an opinion about my games as well. Yeah.
How's he found you not going to as many games this year, because you've had commitments of playing?
I don't think he cares whether I'm there or not. I think it's more, I've taken George to a few games, and that's been really fun. Sort of after the games, they can have a bit of a play and takes him into the rooms and that kind of stuff. I don't think it matters whether I'm there or not.
Do they still have a creche at Geelong? Do it take the little ones to a creche or not?
He's got to go and watch. George's got to sit in his seat for 2 hours. Obviously doesn't.
That's a disaster.
Yeah. No, we're running up and down
Back in our
back
days, we had creche. It was
just
great.
Yeah, I think
all
a
under
few
control.
clubs do. I think there's at the MCG maybe, and no.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it? You'd like to see advancements.
See it
There's
come
another
back,
advancement, another opportunity.
Yeah, we need to get onto that.
Well, it's something that the club are going to need a lot of, because there's a lot of
There's a
younger
few more,
players down there currently not in file, only the girls, but it's going to happen.
Well,
Imagine 10 kids running around, Tim, uncontrolled, unsupervised.
Well, the parents do a
The
good
parents are
job.
there.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
no,
not,
parents
still there. He's not
today,
running around
parents don't look
unsupervised.
after their kids today.
they're not letting them run around in the oval. Let's get that bit right.
No,
Not like my
no.
kids.
Sorry?
Oh, my kids back in the day, it was chaos.
Yeah, they were trouble.
But not so much
were
down
in
here. At least they
trouble.
were in creche down here. Up in Brisbane, they were all over the place. They were climbing all over the equipment, down in the change rooms, climbing up the nets.
No one's going to tell them off. It's their opportunity.
No, they did get told off many times.
Well, it hasn't done them any harm. Jed's obviously playing at Geelong. Jackson last week won the Les Ash medal, tied for the Les Ash medal in the Ballerine Footy League.
Matty Dyer from Bowen Heads, magnificent. It was a great night. AFL Bowen put on a fantastic show. It was well done. Both the girls, the netball, I think it was Kelsey Ollis, I think won the girls BNF in the netball. And Jacko and Matty Dyer tied for, but they did it brilliantly. It came down to the last few votes. Bluey, it was reminiscent.
Was Kingy calling them out?
No, Kingy wasn't calling them out. Big Murray was
That's a
calling them
win.
out. So the pronunciations were correct. It was all done very, very well. But each of the girls and the boys came down to the last game. It was really exciting. So yeah, done well. And then young Jacko, I was wrapped for him. He came third last year on the same amount of votes, mind you. And this year was able to win it on the 17 votes. So
No, it was a great effort. Now, we did see your beautiful wife, Julianne, post some pictures on Facebook of
she lives on
yourself
Facebook. Let's
and
face
her
it.
and Jax in the middle. You were there in this shirt. You had the chest puffed out. You were like a peacock.
I saw that smart comment you put on. I saw that.
It became all about you again.
I've got to tell you this, that was the first time for a long time I actually stood up straight, all right? So when
you
I
need
stand
to,
up
because you're
straight,
4'9".
when I stand up straight, my chest pops out, all right? So that's all that happened.
You're only a little man, but back in the day, pound for pound, you were the strongest man at Geelong. Is that not correct?
Well,
Pound for
and
pound.
not necessarily pound for pound either, Tim. I think without even
Go
having
with the story.
No, pound for pound, yeah, all right. Yeah, none of you blokes could bench press. None of you did weights. You're all semi-professional, whereas I was a professional. So, mate, what? Professionalism's an attitude, Tim. One that you weren't prepared to take on. And some of us were.
Well,
Look at the size of you, you're a monster. Marty,
Yep, leave
Look
me
at the
out of it.
size
I
of
don't
you.
want to.
he should have been able to bench 400 pounds.
Yeah.
What
Kilos.
did you bench?
not much.
Tell us.
No, I just used
Look
to have
down
to
the barrel and
concentrate
tell
on
the
me-
people at
I used
home.
to have to concentrate on me kicking, Andrew.
Oh,
I wasn't the best kicker.
First
Well,
Let's
that
go.
needed some work still too, let's face facts.
No, I'm still
Let's
the best kicker at
dissect him
Wamo.
for a
So
minute. How is he as a coach?
Hold up.
Let's talk about how he's as a coach.
Yeah. I kick as well as Bluey, so, you know.
No, he wasn't bad. He had an awkward style, but he was very good.
no, I joined in training this year,
Yeah.
which I enjoyed immensely.
Yeah.
We said the other day we actually got beaten last week.
He actually
in
kicks
the
properly now with a hip after he's been
That's
done.
right.
prelim final. We had a good year, the Wamos. Enjoyable year. Made the prelim
Prelim.
final with a group of girls that hadn't played before. Did you enjoyed it? All the
It
girls
was
enjoyed
amazing.
it.
Seriously, football kind of. It's been around for a while, women's footy, a number of years
But it's
now.
gone
but
next level, hasn't
it's
it?
just gone out
Yeah,
of control. Yeah,
yeah.
to bring in 11 new teams to just the Geelong
Yeah.
region, it was awesome, and it sucked us in. I think everyone had planned to just fill in, just dip their toes in, maybe play a couple of games, and
Yeah.
we're completely addicted.
Many
Sucks
years
you in.
ago, Mark Yates, in fact, coached one of the female teams here in Geelong, the great Mark Yates. And I was sort of a bit staggered. I thought, I knew there was football, female footy going on, but to what degree I didn't really know. But
There's some talent floating
he's
around.
Some crazy talent.
Yeah.
And they're mad, the girls. They smash each other. They've got no care, Tim. You would have seen all this.
It's not no care, it's
Not no care.
ferocity.
They're reckless. But I love that recklessness. It's so raw.
But there's a concern in women's footy, even in AFLW, about concussions and all those sorts of things, which is fair enough. We
Yeah,
need
it's-
to protect
yeah.
the head, whether it's the AFL men or the AFL
Yeah.
women or local women's footy. It gets back to what you're taught. Now, I think there's coaches at all levels who want to step out and do the right thing and teach and be involved, that they're teaching the right practices. We need to get that bit right, I think.
Yeah. Well, we've played. I mean, I've played sport for 20 years or whatever, and I've never played a sport where people can physically grab me, drag me to the ground from any direction as well. You're completely
360
blindsided
degree.
sometimes. Yeah. So to learn pretty quickly to defend yourself and to protect yourself, it's relatively instinctive for me, I suppose, but not for a lot of girls playing. And when you do have 11 new teams in, that's 300 new participants, and we have 3 girls in our team that had played any sort of football before. So it's a lot of new people coming in.
Learning the skills, trying to take on
learning the skills to kick and handball and tackle.
But the awareness stuff too.
The awareness of people coming from everywhere and the concussions that go with that. Yeah.
We were lucky we only had one this year, the same girl twice. The first one was an accidental knee to the back of the head, and the other time someone else ran into her. But it is a concern for the women's footy, that's for sure. There's been other teams that have had multiple ones. And
is it more frightening that it's the girls being knocked to the ground with concussions? Because are we very accepting of the boys getting knocked around a little? Is it sort of that, but
no,
and I'm not saying the girls are weaker at all. I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting that for one bit, because a concussion's a concussion, no matter who you are, how old you are. But are we? And I do think we should be very protective of the girls getting concussions.
More so than the boys?
No, just being mindful
it's just
of it
you just
because
haven't
it's new.
exactly.
Yeah.
We just haven't grown up. I think. Can you play till you're 12 with the boys?
14.
14.
And then
14.
you can't play till you're 18
Out.
with the women. So there is a gap in between that where you go off and do other things, or most people, have picked it up later in life. So it's just that you haven't seen it yet.
How
So it's
exciting
not
is it
been at
now,
the
though?
forefront of your.
It's exciting
vision.
because I reckon we're seeing the cusp now. That's all. The next 4 years or so, Tim.
The 15s,
because they won't have that gap.
18s.
They'll come through together.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pretty
they
excited
will.
by it. I'm really buoyed by female footy, and I know we'll probably get howled down by some of the old traditionalists, but I do look forward to it. I enjoy it, and my good lady wife, of course, played one game in her illustrious AFL career or VFL career back in the day against some of those what would you call it, 4 women of football.
Yep.
And I remember walking out there, and here's little old Smitty, skinny as a rake, about to bust in two. She said they've gone out there, and the girls having a ciggy and button them out on their hand, and pretty tough customers.
It's a bit more professional these days.
She was terrified. Terrified.
I think as the year's gone on, especially this year, those early on in the year where you saw 2 players running at each other, you sort of turned away thinking, this could be a train wreck. But as the year went on,
They got better.
the awareness was better, and
Yeah.
certainly their ability to be able to protect themselves and get out of that certainly grew with the more confidence they got.
Yeah.
I think that was with all the girls. So it's certainly been a great thing.
Before we leave the
It's
girls,
gro-
I
it is-
want to
it
ask
is
just
growing,
one
yeah.
tiny little question about what happened at your level, where they adjusted the comp mid-season. How was that received? 'Cause
You
I-
would not do that with any other competition anywhere ever. Why would you change the divisions mid-season? We're halfway through the year.
I tend to agree with that. Why would you do it, Tim?
Well, I think
Anyway.
everyone agreed with that.
Yeah, but it just didn't. Yeah, it happened. It
Yeah.
won't ever happen again. Is that
Well,
the hope?
it should never happen again. Or if they wanted to do that, they should have bought, swap teams. 2 teams. They really had to go down to Div 2. Then why didn't they bring the best 2 from Division 2 up? It was just a really odd
We'll put that down as a
process
debacle
as
then.
well. Yeah.
What I
Yeah,
think
but we
was
moved on. We pushed forward and kept playing footy because
and they did. They did a terrific job. All the teams in Division 1, but I don't think what was taken into consideration was the competition, the players, their welfare. So a lot of new girls into women's footy who had to play the best team every 3 weeks. And they're seasoned players. A lot of girls out of the VFL going back to St Mary's and North Geelong, which is a great thing for our competition. But when you're new into the competition, it's very hard to get up week after week. When that division changed, it actually said to our players that every fortnight from now to the end of the year, we're going to go to the pool. So we won't train Tuesday night. We'll just recover because it's going to get harder and harder for you to get through the games.
Yep.
And that got knocked on the head pretty quick. They thought the other way, that they should train so they could get their skills better to be able to be competitive.
Right.
So that's what
That
the
was
mindset
probably
was.
one of my other opinions. As,
Yeah.
as I said, I had a few.
Good.
Oh, you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to do your own recovery. But geez, we had a lot to learn. We had so much to learn, and going to the pool has its benefits, and doing recovery, which we should be doing anyway. But I say to the guys, we've got a 200 AFL gamer coaching us, and we're going to go to the pool instead of the track on a Tuesday night. No.
One of the best
No.
too, Marty. One of
Yep.
the best.
I wouldn't say
agree.
that.
Don't leave that out.
I agree. No, so so let's make the most of him. We've got to get something out of him.
Absolutely.
So.
Now, Rat, you're Geelong to Brisbane,
Yep.
the end of 1993.
Yes.
I'd only had 2 years at Geelong, Marty, and this man here was a
Thank you.
huge influence on my career at that stage. And for you to leave Geelong to go to Brisbane, that was a massive thing for the club.
Yeah, there's a long version and a short version of this. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll give you the very quick version. Look, sometimes it's time to go,
Yep.
and I probably didn't need to be led down any garden paths or had sugar-coated stories told to me or anything like that. I could tell that I wasn't necessarily required. And when you have a conversation that gets yelled down the stairwell at the footy club that you have a 50% pay cut offered to you, it's pretty easy to read the tea leaves. They don't really want you.
We've all had that.
So yeah, 50% pay cut, I was wondering, well, if I have to put in 50% of the effort, maybe I'll stay. That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So, no, look, that meeting went pear-shaped. The old great Bull Durham, as our wonderful CEO at the time, just didn't get it right.
Yep.
Just couldn't. His conversation sense was poor. His communication was really poor, and at that point I just decided, well, you know what, I don't need to put up with this sort of rubbish from anybody. So I thought, well, I'll have a look at what my options are. I had a contract running out in December of that year, so Malcolm decided that we were all the older blokes were sent off to do their own pre-season, but they had to come back in better nick than they had been in the previous 5 years. And I thought, well, that's a fair enough request. So I went out and did my training, came back, PB'd everything, did the final training session down at Landy Field. And I remember shaking hands with Buddha Hocking and Gary Ayres, because they both were the only two that asked me, how have you gone, what are you doing? And I said, I've just finished my last training session, boys, good luck for the season. Shook their hands and off I went, off into the sunset. And look,
Sad time.
no, it was, but for kind of, yes, it was kind of a sad time, but a good time too, because Mick Mansfield, I say this to every time people ask me about that, Mick Mansfield then got a regular game in a regular position in the back pocket, became All-Australian back pocket as a defender, fantastic. You know, it was a passing of the guard, and I couldn't have been more proud of Mick. I thought that was, you know, my leaving gave him an opportunity to play some really good regular senior footy. I went to Brisbane and I had kids like Lappin, Voss, Ackermanis, the Scott boys, Darryl White, Chrissy Johnson, everybody except Jonathan Brown. So I had something to do with all those kids coming through, and you know, I got opportunity to. Like, Wallsy gave me carte blanche. He'd say, Wednesday night, what do you got cooking? I said, well, I'll take Lepich, Chapman, Voss, and we'll do some extra training. And that's the stuff that they needed, because they weren't. You should have seen what they did on the track.
So it was great for them.
Fantastic, and great for me, because I was able to be a leader. Not necessarily need a title, or I didn't need a coaching title. I didn't need anything. I was just a senior player, but I would be down there doing my work anyway. So I grabbed these guys and just do extra. It was great, and those guys all went on to become superstars. And you know, I had a little part to play in that, and that was fulfilling for me. I mean, every premiership they won, my heart beat stronger and stronger, and you know,
You had your fingerprints all over it.
well, I was wrapped. Whereas Richard Champion, who retired the year before the first premiership, he was as filthy as all get out.
Still is.
Oh, he's still dirty. He still reckons he should be playing. But, you know, I was totally the opposite. I just
Actually,
couldn't have
based
been
on
more-
what I saw in that Legends game the other night, he shouldn't be playing
No,
anymore.
he's cooked.
Now, the only positive to come out of you going to Brisbane was the fact that I assumed the role,
Backseat
the
boy.
back seat of the bus,
Yeah, well, I hope so.
and controlled the bus from there.
I would have hoped so.
There were some great times catching the bus. We used to catch a bus from Geelong to Melbourne for games, and back in the day, you finish the game, which is a lot different now, where they have a Powerade and they go for an ice bath. And we used to get on the bus and have to step over 2 Eskies and grab a can out of each one before you got to your seat to go home.
Absolutely.
It's professional.
Great times, though.
Yeah. While there were times when people got a little bit more competitive in that area too on the way home. And I think we can say this because Ray Card, I think, is still the current title holder.
Yes. Oh, that'll never change now because we don't play at Waverley.
On the bus.
Well, we don't go to Waverley anymore either. So Waverley was an extra 30 minutes up the road.
Yep.
So I think Raymond knocked down 18 cans, 7 of which were done before the car park, mind you. He had 7 down his gullet before we left the car park.
Yeah, that's a pretty good effort.
Greedy pig.
I challenge anyone to hire a bus with a few mates.
Anyone.
Drink responsibly.
Drive there where Hawthorn
At least you're
actually,
on the
that's
bus.
it. That was a massive effort.
Yeah, it was a good effort. Yep. Nearly matched by B. Brian Carr.
Well, yeah, that's
boot stuff.
another story for another day. Now, Marty, obviously, we said before, you're close with your family, very close. Your beautiful sister, Romy,
Yeah.
has had a few challenges over the last few years. There's doing her run, and she's got an event coming up. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, big challenge, Rom. So she, I think maybe 5 years ago now, was probably the start of her, I guess, depression, and then that rolled into anorexia. And probably 2-3 years ago it was at its worst. And she and our whole family, I suppose, got help from Headspace in Geelong to do, I guess, her recovery. And that's, it's a long process, and she still has her days. She's doing incredible now, and their support literally saved her life, saved our family, saved all our relationships, because anorexia is just it's just nasty. It's really nasty.
Yeah.
And she was not well for a long time.
And you were away at that
I was
point?
away at the start, and when we say we came home and our time in Adelaide had finished, I'm not to say that this was probably part of it. It's just that thing of, you're not around family enough to do anything when you're just coming back and forth. So, she started her run. She's doing 1,000 kilometres in 140 days, which is a lot of running. And it was something that she used to love to do, and then it sort of, it probably ticked her over the edge into that anorexia, where it was really an unhealthy obsession. And she's been able to work herself back to a point where it's something that she loves again and she has control over, and she does for a good reason, and she does because it keeps her mind healthy and her body healthy, and she fuels herself properly. So she's been doing her 1,000 kilometres to raise money for Headspace, and it finishes, she's got to get them all done by October 6th, which will be her, she's running an event at the Palais, I believe. Yep, so Blue will be hosting or emceeing. To raise money for
black
Headspace.
tie again.
Yeah. We'd love to see it rolled back out.
Some sort of tie would be just nice, mate.
So I think it's just her way to, give back, and I think she's already raised over $5,000. So she's doing amazing.
Where can people support?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Well, if you want to come along, either so Romy's Facebook page or Instagram page, I guess, is Rom Harwood on Instagram, and all her links are there to donate or to buy a ticket to the event on October 6th.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's, as well as yourself, you're playing B grade grand final this week for Amos.
Yeah.
And Romy plays in the A grade grand final. So
not to be outdone, Romy.
Well, they actually did well. They were 9-1 down in the first quarter, the A grade, and got up 1 by 10. Is that right?
Yeah, they had a massive fight back. So I think they
Momentum
started a
swing.
bit sluggish and came home with absolute fire. So yeah, it'll be great.
And B grade have been the best team all year. Well, you lost 1 game for the year, so chances this week.
Yeah, we're a chance. We're in it, so we're a chance. No illusions. Grand final day is a different game. So we'll bring our A game, and we're playing Barwon Heads. So it should be exciting.
They've been successful
They
this year,
have
haven't
been flying as a club. They've been in everything.
They won a lot of the club
They're like
awards
salt
last
and
year.
pepper at the moment, Bowen Heads.
Yep.
They're in everything.
No, they are.
There you go.
Well,
And they've done a wonderful job. They've certainly gone to work on
Nor's
it.
like that one.
She's heard them all before. I could hear her eyes rolling back in her head.
Don't be like that, mate.
But just quickly,
Yes.
we'll nearly wrap up
Yes.
Murphy's front bar.
Yeah,
the
get it.
Cats finals start this week. What are the chances? Richmond obviously finished on top and have been the dominant team for the year. What do you think this week, Rat?
Well, I firmly believe that the Cats... Look, I reckon I love when teams get on rolls. Cats have really built their form over the season. You know, people would look at it and go, gee, they're damn lucky to be there. And that's a fair comment. But they're actually in good form. And when teams are scoring heavily, Tim, they are absolutely in good form. And they're so hard to beat and slow down. And we look at the Bulldogs a couple of years ago, got on that roll.
Yep.
They're unstoppable. Richmond last year got on that roll. They're unstoppable. I really like... Now, people will say, oh, but they played nobody in the last 2 rounds. But the last 2 rounds, they absolutely worked themselves to the end of the game. Like, they didn't stop. And they were... I looked around last 2 weeks, or nearly 2 weeks ago, and they were all hands on knees at the end of the game. They were knackered. And that's a great sign. Great sign. You know, when you don't give up and you don't just go into lairising mode and I'll show you how many I can kick. And I was rapt to see that. And I reckon that's a solid indication of really good form. So, and all the indicators are up.
Momentum's beautiful. Paddy wrote an article, Scott Gullen wrote an article the other week for Paddy.
The great Scotty.
about momentum. And it's perfect. What you say, sometimes the opposition is irrelevant, but the confidence you gain out of that, whether it's netball, footy, it doesn't matter.
Yep. Winning form is good form. But Tim?
If they get past this week, there's no reason why they can't win it. Is that been mentioned at home?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talk about it.
Yeah.
So...
Yep.
They've got a little theme going, and it's an in-house theme, and I won't break
see why
confidence. And I really like their thought process and their meaning behind it.
So it's in-house, but you know about it.
I know about it.
So it's out of the house now.
Ain't no fuzzer.
Be like telling the Geelong
You
Addy,
would know
you
it,
know.
but we're not saying anything about it.
I know nothing.
I'll crowbar it out
It's
here,
going to
don't
come.
worry.
You'll
Well,
be nothing, my
you've thrown
friend.
Jed under the bus here, I think.
Yes, you have.
No, but I haven't spoken. But every club would have an in-house thing.
He'll be at his locker tomorrow to get a tap on the shoulder from the leadership
We
group
used to have
saying
a-
we want to speak. If he doesn't play this week, it's your fault.
We used to have a theme every finals campaign.
Yeah?
Every finals, Malcolm would come out with a theme.
He always had something, Malcolm.
Always had a theme.
The great Malcolm
So
Blight.
all clubs have a theme going in, and you've got to have one because whatever you've used during the season is certainly well and truly worn out by now.
Well, it is. We spoke about Blighty the other week. He was obviously inducted as a life member of the Footy Club.
Yep.
I think Malcolm Blight is the only person in the history of footy that's a life member of 4 clubs.
Is that right?
Geelong,
Yep.
North Melbourne, Adelaide, and I think Woodville West
Woodville,
Torrens, where
West
he's
Torrens,
originated
yeah.
from. 4 clubs.
Yep.
That's an extraordinary effort, the great man. Now,
Not St Kilda though.
no, he was there 8 minutes, so I'm not sure he'd be a life member
I
for
asked him
there
about
8
that.
minutes.
I actually asked him. We caught up one time up in Cairns and we'd had a couple of these together. The first time since departing.
Was it like a breaking of the bread
You
for
bet
you,
it.
Steve?
You bet it was. I saw him and I grabbed a couple of jugs and I said, "We need to have a couple of these." So we sat him down and I said to him, "Now, just talk me through St Kilda. You told me that they were the most disorganised." I went through the rant that he went through, and he looked at me and he said, "Yep." And I said, "Well, what made you do it? What was going through your head?" He said, "Million reasons."
Yeah.
You can't beat that, can you?
No, you can't. Now, the great man did that another time.
Yeah. When was this?
Oh, way back in the
Yeah,
day.
it's a lot of money.
So now it'd be $2 million.
It'd be a lot now.
Well, would you go?
You'd buy the house behind you. Wouldn't you?
The great man did that after my first game at Geelong. This is back in the day. Malcolm. Boys were sitting at a table at a function at the club, got 2 jugs, poured all the players that were on the table a beer, and he plonked himself next to me and said, "Geez, today wasn't great. My first game at Geelong had a dozen kicked on me. So it wasn't a great start." And he said, "No, it wasn't a great start, was it?" I said, No, it wasn't, expecting for him to say then that, you know, you're not going to play ever again. And he said, "Now, but next week, we're going to play you again." And his psychology was unbelievable.
Was it
really.
Melbourne first or Hawthorn first?
Hawthorn first,
That's
Melbourne
right.
the next
Yeah,
week,
yeah.
which didn't really start that well either.
So who was your first opponent?
Jason Dunstall.
Yep.
Now, I hold a record that you may not know. This will never get broken, punters. Jason Dunstall, that year, 1992, kicked his first goal and his 100th on me in the same year.
It's trivia for you.
Yep, you've done very
You're
well.
part of
That will
history.
never get broken.
No, yeah, well done.
We're clapping the Coleman medalist now because he's kicked 65 goals.
Yeah,
In
I know.
1993, Gary Ablett kicked that in 9 games. Kicked 124 in 17 games that year, so things have changed.
I was
Things have
sitting with
changed.
somebody and they had their young fella with them while that was on the other day. They were went through the numbers of the goal kickers and then showing highlights of Jason. It must have been the front bar. And
Murphy's front bar.
not Murphy's front bar, but the other front bar, the cheaper one. And, they couldn't believe 120 goals, 100, the players are kicking twice as many and the kids couldn't fathom it.
No.
They'd not seen
crazy,
football
isn't
like that ever. So,
Different game.
yeah, it was a different game, different era.
it? In
of
a
course.
day gone by.
Yeah, but just eye-opening for those kids to go, wow, people kicked over 100? It's crazy.
The players now, they're beautiful athletes, like supreme athletes.
look,
Like things have changed.
Sooner or later, Tim, your skills in the game as a defender were going to be rewarded, and now they are. They got a Golden Fist award, they get rewarded for tackles, smothers, spoils.
Next, do we go to ads here or not? Now, anyone in the crowd, we're nearly just about to wrap up Murphy's front bar. Any questions from the punters in the crowd tonight? Geez, that was a rousing reception there.
Crickets going...
I think in the background I heard someone say, we've heard enough for you. So, look.
Got a comment.
You got a comment? We asked for questions.
Just rephrase it.
More than happy to hear a comment. More than happy.
In relation to mental health and GFL, you're probably not aware, but there is a GFL club that does employ a mental health clinician who attends training, attends every game, and they're really dedicated because they're a Geelong Social Club member, which means they can't attend any Geelong Saturday afternoon games. So it started.
Brilliant.
They're employed as a mental health support for that club?
No,
Or are they-
they're
they're-
offered to be paid, and they said
Yeah.
no, they'll nothing to put the money back in
Yeah,
the club.
yeah. No, it would be great if people from the community that do have those skills could get into the clubs, because there isn't always the money essentially to be able to employ them in that role for individual clubs, and that's amazing that
a great
someone's willing
start.
to donate their time to do that.
Money's tight at a lot of clubs.
It's not that it's not a priority either. It's
Not
just
at
hard to
Ammo's.
find.
They're pretty
hard to
flush.
Andrew.
Please.
You're
Andrew,
getting paid
come
as
on.
Aren't you being paid?
We're volunteers.
I thought you were
Andrew.
getting paid.
No, we're
You
volunteers.
have salary
yeah?
cap at your club in the girls' footy.
Jeez, I haven't seen a cent of it.
Oh, Tim's.
No, the great man,
Tim's,
the great man Simon Farrell hasn't got the checkbook out yet, nor
It
should
won't
he.
be long, mate.
We're
Won't be long.
volunteers there, and we love it.
Do it for the love.
We do it
Faz
for the
will
love.
slip a little bit. He'll just get a little bit of love check
Now,
come
just
out.
as a bit of an update for the great man Simon Farrell, he was at the under 15 girls grand final yesterday for Geelong Amos, which they won. They beat Lara quite
Future is
convincing. So
female.
it was back to back for the under 15 girls, which is a great result. And he was down there with your father and a few others from Amos, so it was a great thing. And he's on the mend.
Charlie
and-
Repcak with him, riding shotgun.
No, he wasn't actually.
For a
No,
change?
he's in Bali. He's ditched us because the senior boys are out, so he's ditched us. But he'll be back for next year. So Simon's doing really well, and
He's actually been getting around because
back
I
on
saw
the
him a couple
mend.
of weeks back at the really cold weekend down at Leopold, and he's in the car, and he's been fantastic.
Yeah, he wouldn't miss it.
Hasn't missed a beat.
yeah, and unfortunately, Amo's hemorrhaging at the moment because the bar sales have gone through the floor, not through the roof, since he's been sick. So I'm sure he gets
It's
back
probably not
there.
a
and-
bad thing either.
It's not a bad
His
thing.
liver's recovering well.
That's not a bad thing. So, no, just an update on Faz. So, all good with him. So, once again, thank you for listening and watching Murphy's Front Bar. We'll see you again next week.
That was not bad.
Bad one.